In this video tutorial, we will build from scratch the diagram that you see on your screen. We use here MindFusion Diagram Library for React and the Node List View control, which is part of the library. The node list allows us to drag and drop diagram nodes from the list and create new instances of the selected shape. We can also create nodes interactively and connect them with the mouse. All this is part of the default settings of the diagram control. This tutorial assumes you know little or no React and have some knowledge of JavaScript. We navigate to the folder where we want to create our project. We open a terminal and use Create React App to create our application. We go into the newly created directory and install the diagram library for React. Let's open the new application in VS Code. Here is the index file and the CSS file for the project. Let's check if the diagram modules are installed. Here they are. Let's now start a React development server that will run the application. Here it is. We are ready to write code. First, we create a new JavaScript file where we will code our custom component. We name it Diagram App. We declare the default React import and a member import of component from the React library. Then we make default import of the program library and member imports of the diagram view and node list view classes. Diagram view is the class that renders a diagram, and node list view is the class that represents the list with nodes to drag. We create the diagram app class, which is a React component. We have to make some initialization, so we declare a constructor. In it, we first create a new instance of the diagram class, which is the de facto diagram area that you saw in the center of our application. Now we will initialize a new empty list. When we initialize another array, which will hold the IDs of the shape nodes that we want to appear in the node list, How do we know these IDs? When you open the online documentation for the JavaScript diagram, you will see a link to the online help. One of the topics there is a table with all predefined node shapes, together with their string IDs. Let's take several shapes that we like, for instance cloud, cube, and the cylinder. Now we have 3 members in the shape IDs array, and we will use those IDs to create 3 shape nodes. We cycle through the IDs and create a new shape node instance. We use setText to specify the text to appear inside the node, and setShape with the shape ID to specify how the new nodes will look. We write the 2 arrays and the diagram instance into the state of this component. We also declare it as a default export. The next thing to do is add some CSS styling to the project. We add 3 classes to the index.css file. Those classes are for the whole page, for the diagram, and the sidebar that will show the node list view. We can add now the render method. It returns a single div element where we have another div with the node list view. The nodes and captions for the node list view are taken from the nodes and caption instances stored in the state. The diagram is placed in a diagram view element. The diagram instance is again taken from the state where we stored it. Let's edit the index file and make it render the diagram sample component. Here is our diagram. The white R is actually the diagram surface, and we can draw shapes and link them. However, drag and drop from the node list view does not work. And the reason is we haven't identified the diagram to be associated with the node list view. We create a new list with diagram properties. First, we give our diagram an ID, diagram1. We also specify a backbrush for it so we can actually distinguish it on the page. Let's refresh the page. Now drag and drop works fine, and we can create any of the items from the node list view. We can resize them, draw links, move them, and so on. The properties of the React diagram are listed in the online documentation together with a Getting Started guide. And this is all for today. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your interest in MindFusion Developer Tools.